G'day, g'day. I'm here to have a discussion with you today on what does retirement actually mean. So, hello, it's me, Michael Scarbossa, back again with my Save and Invest and Grow Your Money Q&A. So, one of the things I want to talk about today, like I just said, what does retirement actually mean? For most of us, we're simply just following along with what society sort of shows us and what we've all settled for in regards to our definition of retirement. So, what is that? Well, most of us have the view that we're working to a 60 or 65 until we can access our super. In Australia, it's super. Overseas, in the US, it's a 401k, or in the UK, it's a pension. Don't know what the rules are around that. But anyway, that's what we're aiming for. And we're working away in our jobs to we're 60 and 65 until we can get that super to pay for our lifestyle beyond that. But for a lot of us, we don't even have any clue that when we get there, if it's actually going to be enough for the rest of our lives. So think about it. If you're going to retire at 60, 65, you're probably going to live, or you would like to think, at least another 30 years beyond that. That's a long time retired. So what are you going to do with that time? you know and are you going to be worried about running out of money, so you're going to be whittling your super away to nothing? Certainly that's something I don't want to be doing. What think about it. What are you going to be leaving for your family, for your children? Nothing. A house maybe that you have to sell so you can afford to move into a retirement village. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty uninspiring future to me. So, just in my own life, a few examples that are quite close to me of elderly couples. I know of one. They are relatively healthy, but they actually are struggling for cash. They just don't quite have enough super to be able to really get to where they think the end of their life is going to be. So they're really worried about that. Then they really constrict their lives to fit what income they have, and that doesn't sound like a great future to me. Or others that have waited till 60, 65 to retire. So it's another couple. They actually do have quite a bit of cash, and it looks like they're quite comfortable for their future. Probably going to leave something behind for their children. But they've left it too late. Their bodies are breaking down. Their dreams of doing these trips around the world is now becoming very, very difficult for them because having a bad back and sitting in an airliner for many, many hours does not seem like a great thing. Having struggling with mobility and being able to walk, distances and things like that, not a great thing. So, this comes down to two factors here. One, when you retire, or whatever retirement means for you, and I'll get into that in a moment, are you going to have enough money? And two, are you going to be healthy enough? Are you going to do it at are you going to retire at an age young enough for you to be able to still enjoy the life the way that you want to enjoy it? So, before I go along any further, I just want to to say to you that I do have a free PDF, something that I've put together in regards to the steps that I took to get myself from having no savings to buying my first investment property. So this is the successful things that I've put in place for my personal finance journey and that successful journey so far. And I want to share with you those things. It's a free PDF. I'll put it my website, michaelscarbossa.com, in the comments, so you can go and pick that up for yourself. These are the things that I would tell my 20-year-old self if I was to start again. So make sure you go there and get it. Anyway, just moving on. So with that in mind around, how much money you want to retire, when you want to retire, how old do you want to be? It comes down to making some smart financial decisions as soon as you can. Doesn't matter what age you are. As soon as you can make those smart financial decisions, it's going to benefit you for the future. It's a journey. So the quicker you can get on that journey, the better it's going to be for you. And be able to really live life the way you want to, rather than spending most of it in a full-time job till you're 60, 65. I sort of think of that and I'm like, I'm not so enthused by that. I want to pull that date backwards. I want to be able to have some more choices in the way I spend the time that I have in my life now, rather than waiting till then. And we all have this potential to provide generational wealth for our families. So what do I mean by generational wealth? I mean by making some smart decisions around our money that builds wealth. So we live off the income from those investments rather than reducing that investment for nothing. What does that really mean? we're going to leave a legacy. We're going to leave something for our children. We're going to leave something that lives on for our children's children from a wealth generation perspective. We are living in one of the most fortunate times ever. And I really think it's our duty to really do the right thing by our children and be able to look after them into the future. So, what is my definition of retirement? So, my definition of retirement is simply this. It's at the point when you can transition from your full time career. Okay, so that's the work that we need to do. And I think over time, a lot of us have lost our excitement around that work, and we're doing it because we need to, or we have to, because we need an income, not because we want to. And we absolutely love going to that job, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, even Saturdays for many, shift work for many, to transitioning to more of a part-time income. And that might be that you take a different role in your industry to get part-time income. So maybe some sort of consulting role where you're getting more income for the time that you're putting in, like higher hourly rate, for instance. Or you've started to develop an escape plan on the side. So a passion project, something that you're really interested in, something you've got a passion in that you started to develop in your spare time. And over time, you started to grow some income out of that. Something that you would love to do, you know, ongoing. It doesn't need to be a retirement. You don't have to stop that. It's, you know, I think we're a long time retired, and you've got to find something that really enthuses you. I really don't think that all you're going to do is play golf and go fishing for the rest of your life. I think we would get bored by that. I think we would get bored by not providing that contribution to our fellow human beings. A lot of people might laugh at me and go, "Well, you bloody bonkers." But anyway, that's my thoughts on the subject. So it's getting to that passion project, for instance, to transition to that part-time income and continue to grow your investments for your future, where you can live off the income from those investments. So I'll talk a bit more about what I mean by a passion project in a minute, but really, what are the steps to get there? How are we going to get there? And there are steps, and it's over time. It is a journey. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is just make some smart decisions around the way you spend your money. Make some smart decisions about the way you spend your money to create some space to be able to create some savings so you can start investing those savings and start to generate some long-term wealth for yourself. So I've done other videos on this. Check out the group and go and find those videos. Have a good look at that. I think I've left some great information there for you. Um, so you can get to that point so you can have more choices around how you want to live your life. When I say about developing extra income, so transitioning from your full-time career, for instance, so developing a passion project. So something, we're in this age now where the advent and the tools of the internet makes it really, really easy for us to share something that we've had success in from a hobby perspective or an interest perspective, and be able to start sharing some tips around that to be able to help other people get success in that same area. So I'm just talking about real little niche projects here. Okay. So for instance, mums who are great at baking cakes. There's a lot of mums out there who don't want to go full on into decorating cakes and that sort of thing because it's hard work, or they don't have the skills to. But I do know a mum that does it in her spare time, and she is absolutely unbelievable at decorating these cakes. And I know a lot of mums would think, boy, I would love to have that skill. How can I learn? How do I do this? How do I get to be able to create these amazing creations? So that's just a very simple example of a passion project. Now, the other thing to think about, why would you want to do a passion project? Well, ultimately, I think as human beings, or as a normal functioning human being, we all want to help each other out. So if you've got some skills or experience where you can help someone out in a particular area, wouldn't you want to share that message? That is really my thought on the matter. But also is, and I touched on this before. We get into a full-time job, a full-time career. We do that career over many years, and sometimes we fall out of love with that career, or maybe we never really loved it in the first place. So in reality, go back to the start. How did we get in that career in the first place? Well, it was the decisions of a teenager that got you into that career. Really, really, that's what happened. Like, I think back to my own journey. I went through high school. I was getting to the end of year 12. I thought, wow, school's finishing. What the hell am I going to do now? I had no clue. But there's one thing I did know. I don't know if I was ready to go and work and go full on into a 40, 50, 60 hour a week career. And even on top of that, I had no idea what I wanted to do. But the one thing that I did know, and talking with the guidance counselor at the college that I went to, in my secondary education, I was really good with numbers and really interested in numbers. I grew up on a farm. And I was really interested in the way things worked and how they got put together. And the suggestion to me was, well, why don't you do engineering? My question was, what the hell is that? He explained it. I thought, well, actually, that sounds pretty interesting. I like the idea of going to university and getting myself a Bachelor of Engineering degree in mechanical engineering, which is what I did. And also, the other part of that is I was the first person out of both sides of my entire families to ever go to university and get a degree, which I actually thought at the time that would be pretty cool. So off I went. And as a result of that, I fell into a career in engineering and construction. And for the large part, I have enjoyed that. But I've sort of got to the point now where, you know what, I've done that now. I've done that. I'm looking for a change. And I know many other friends, my age in their 40s, also looking for that change. Some of them made that change. I know a couple of mums who've made career changes from doing jobs in health and safety or education and going into like early childhood care because they've really loved giving back and looking after young children. I know of others that have transitioned from being a physiotherapist and going into the construction industry. Just really big changes in that respect. Others that have transitioned out of their full-time jobs and actually pursued passion projects. That's quite an inspiring step. So maybe that's something you can think about and think about how you can transition and develop a different income. And then, as time goes on, so this is the next step, use your side project. This may become your full-time income. I don't know. But you can use that to also boost your investments. If you're still working full-time, you're getting a bit of income from a side project, you're boosting your investments. That's going to bring the income for those investments to pay for your lifestyle sooner rather than later. So that all sounds great. But in reality, what you need to do is have an awareness and an understanding of what's your retirement number. So what's your goal? What's the number that you need to get that's going to pay for your lifestyle? That's what we're all aiming for. That's what retirement is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to share a really simple way to work this out. I'll just talk through it for now. And what I'll do is I'll leave a simple calculation in the comments of this video so you can use that and play around with it yourself. So the simple way to work it out is this. So what is your current yearly income? So that's the income, that's the cash that your employer pays you into your bank account every week, fortnight, month, whatever that might be, after tax over the course of a year. So what's that number? Okay. So then the next thing to do is how much are you saving or investing on an annual basis? How much are you saving and investing every year? It might be zero. So the calculation to work this out is really simple. It's yearly income minus how much you're saving and investing. Okay. So what's left behind is that's what it costs for you to live right now in the lifestyle you currently have. It's really that simple. Now, I would say that in aiming for a retirement goal is just to aim to have your current lifestyle paid for. Once you get to that point, there's other things you can do. You can use your passion project or your investments or whatever to then start to increase that lifestyle once you get to that point and really start enjoying life and increasing your lifestyle. Because the main thing we want is our investments, the income from our investments to pay for our lifestyle, not our investments. You don't want to reduce that asset base or that value of your investments. You just want to live off the income because that way, if you don't reduce that, that will continue to grow over time. So, all right, the next part of all of this in regards to once you work out that number between your yearly income and your savings and investments that you're doing every year, so your living expenses, what it costs you to live for a year, is look into the future. And when you get to this point, is there any large expenses that you currently have that you're not going to have at that point? So, for instance, it could be your mortgage, right? So, it might be that when you get to this point, you have your home fully paid off, mortgage free, so you don't have those mortgage costs. And for many of us, it's probably the largest living expense that we have. It's quite substantial. Um, that said, the other really big one to consider is maybe the cost of your children's education. Um, and for some people, I think this cost as well exceeds their mortgage. There's some very, very expensive colleges out there. But what's the cost of your children's education? Are they going to be finished school? Do you want to tip in for their university fees? What is that point? Is when you want to have your time back, are you still going to have that expense or aren't you? So these are two big expenses at that point in time. If you're not going to have them, then you can take that out of what your living expense is, which means your number is going to be lower for when you need to retire and you'll get that quicker. So it all depends on what the situation is for you. Now, the other thing that you have to consider is because we're talking about a future number. So there's this thing called inflation. And I know here, we're sitting here in July 2022, inflation around the globe at the moment is going a bit nuts. It's really off the scale. So it's a very pertinent example at the moment that really sharpens the mind and go, hey, yes, you actually have to consider this. Now, just a quick example on this is a very quick calculation that you can use, the rule of thumb called the rule of 72. Okay, so basically it's how long it takes for your money to halve in value, or conversely, how long it takes for your investments to double in value, depending on the percentage rate. Now, in Australia, since records in about 1960 forward, that average of inflation rate in Australia has been about 4.7%. Yet it's definitely a bit higher than that at the moment. We're talking about long-term average, okay? So I think it's right to use a long-term average to make this calculation. So, since 1960, about 4.7, let's conservatively say 5%. So what you do is you take what your annual living expense needs to be, divide it by 5%, and then that will give you how long it takes. And what that will tell you is in about 14 and a half years, your money is going to halve in value. So what that really means is that in 14 and a half years, or let's say 15 years, the income that you believe you're going to need to live as per your cost of living today, let's say it's $75,000. In 15 years, it's going to need to be 150, double. Okay, so let's just think about that. Now, the next step is, okay, let's say we're aiming to retire in 15 years as an example, 75, as I said, we believe we're going to need about $75,000 a year in today's dollars. In 15 years time, that will be 150. Conservatively, let's just think of your investments and your assets only are going to return you 5% a year. That's a very conservative number in my opinion. It's this simple. So take that $100,000 or $150,000 and divide that by 5%. That's going to give you a number of about 3 million. So 3 million is the value of the assets and investments that are returning your income that you're aiming for. Now, conversely, if you've got a passion project that you just absolutely love doing and you're doing it part-time and you've got lots of choices around how you spend your time and you're living the life that you want to live, then you can actually reduce that number because you've got that extra income coming in for something you continue going to want to do. So that's another consideration as well, to try and pull that date back of when you would consider for you what retirement is. So like I said before, I know that was a lot of stuff around numbers and a calculation. I'll do a quick worked one, very, very simple in the comments so you can follow that along and have a play around with it. You can change the rates a little bit and do what you want with that. So developing personal financial success to achieve what I call an early retirement. It's not a short process, but if you make the smart decisions now, put the right strategy in place, stay determined and stay the course to your strategy and follow the path, I think it's definitely achievable for all of us. And that's why I'm sharing this video. I really encourage you to have a look at that and think about, gee, this is this is really thought provoking. What is my situation? What is my retirement situation? What do I want my life to look like? What is my number? And work through this and get a goal for yourself around what your retirement number is, when you want to retire, and what do you want life to look like. So I hope you've really found that valuable today. I really hope that you take this video and use it. That's what I'm intending to do for everyone. I'm sharing this information that I've learned over my hobby of trying to increase my family's financial financial wealth. And I've been doing this for about 20 years as a hobby. Um, so take this information and use it. I really hope you do. Just in closing, just wanted to remind you again of my free PDF that I've got for you. It's just a free PDF. That's it, nothing else. Of what I would tell my 20-year-old self, and how I got from no savings to buying my first investment property to start me on my family's successful you know, financial journey. So anyway, that's all from me. All the best, and I will see you again next week. Thanks very much. Bye.